The Antinomies of Antonia Gramsci, by Perry Anderson, is a critical engagement with the thought and legacy of Antonia Gramsci, one of the most influential Marxist theorists of the 20th century. Anderson's work is not a straightforward exegesis of Gramsci's ideas, but rather a critical analysis of the tensions, contradictions, and ambiguities within Gramsci's writings, particularly as they relate to Marxist theory and political practice. Anderson's book is both a tribute to Gramsci's intellectual contributions and a rigorous critique of the ways in which his ideas have been interpreted and appropriated, particularly by Eurocommunists and other strands of Western Marxism. Anderson begins by situating Gramsci within the broader context of Marxist theory, emphasizing the unique historical and political conditions that shaped his thought. Gramsci, an Italian communist and founder of the Italian Communist Party, wrote his most influential works, including the prison notebooks, while imprisoned by Mussolini's fascist regime. These writings were fragmentary and often elliptical, reflecting the constraints of his imprisonment and the need to evade censorship. As a result, Gramsci's ideas are often open to multiple interpretations, and Anderson argues that this has led to a certain degree of theoretical ambiguity and political instrumentalization. One of the central themes of Anderson's analysis is the tension in Gramsci's thought between his commitment to revolutionary Marxism and his emphasis on the importance of cultural and ideological struggle. Gramsci's concept of hegemony, which refers to the ways in which ruling classes maintain their dominance, not merely through coercion, but through the consent of subordinate classes, is one of his most enduring contributions. Anderson acknowledges the originality and significance of this concept, but also highlights its potential limitations. He argues that Gramsci's focus on hegemony and the superstructure, culture, ideology, and institutions sometimes led him to downplay the importance of the economic base and the material conditions of class struggle. This, Anderson suggests, risks diluting the revolutionary core of Marxism and shifting the focus toward a more reformist politics. Anderson also critiques the ways in which Gramsci's ideas have been appropriated by Eurocommunists and other currents within Western Marxism. He argues that these interpretations often emphasize Gramsci's emphasis on democratic struggle and cultural transformation at the expense of his revolutionary commitments. For Anderson, this represents a distortion of Gramsci's thought, one that aligns him more closely with social democracy than with revolutionary socialism. He contends that Gramsci's emphasis on the war of position, a gradual struggle for cultural and ideological hegemony, has been overemphasized at the expense of the war of maneuver, a direct assault on state power. Anderson warns against the dangers of reducing Gramsci's thought to a purely cultural or intellectual project, divorced from the material realities of class struggle and revolutionary politics. Another key theme in Anderson's analysis is the relationship between Gramsci's thought and the broader tradition of Western Marxism. Anderson situates Gramsci within a lineage of Marxist thinkers, including George Locke, Karl Korsch, and the Frankfurt School, who sought to revitalize Marxist theory in the face of the failures and betrayals of the socialist movement in the early 20th century. He argues that Gramsci's work represents both a continuation and a departure from this tradition. On the one hand, Gramsci shares with other Western Marxists a focus on culture, ideology, and subjectivity, as well as a critique of economic determinism. On the other hand, Anderson suggests that Gramsci's thought is more firmly rooted in the concrete realities of political struggle, making him less prone to the abstract theorizing and pessimism that characterized much of Western Marxism. Anderson also explores the implications of Gramsci's thought for the strategy and tactics of revolutionary politics. He argues that Gramsci's emphasis on the importance of the national context and the specificities of local conditions represents a significant advance over the more schematic and universalizing tendencies of earlier Marxist thought. However, Anderson also cautions against the dangers of overemphasizing the particular at the expense of the universal. He suggests that Gramsci's focus on the national context sometimes led him to underestimate the importance of international solidarity and the global dimensions of capitalist exploitation. This, Anderson argues, has important implications for contemporary struggles, particularly in an era of increasing globalization. Throughout his analysis, Anderson maintains a critical but sympathetic stance toward Gramsci. He acknowledges the richness and complexity of Gramsci's thought, while also highlighting its limitations and contradictions. Anderson's critique is not aimed at dismissing Gramsci's contributions, but rather at clarifying and refining them in order to make them more useful for contemporary revolutionary practice. He argues that Gramsci's ideas remain indispensable for understanding the dynamics of power and domination in capitalist societies, but he also insists on the need to situate these ideas within a broader Marxist framework that emphasizes the centrality of class struggle and the necessity of revolutionary transformation.